Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dumelang, Sanbonani, Absheni, Happy Africa Day, Africa Month, and welcome to everyone that is here today. Thank you for honoring the invitation. Remona Hotlo, celebrate Setso sa rona, bo Africa ba rona, and of course being proudly African and making every day as Africa Day. All right, I just want to acknowledge the presence of Director General Ntate Vusimuzi Mkhize from the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, as well as Mr. Rufus Madibe, the Director of International Relations at the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Sedibeng District Municipality, Mr. Makgotla, as well as Ms. Busi. Thank you very much for being here. The African Ambassador crew, all the supporters, Stalin Image, of course, who has been a sponsor of this amazing program, as well as Capello for our partnership. Thank you very much and welcome to everyone. Give yourselves a round of applause. This event, this program of African Ambassador is for young people. And in the social media, in the website, and make sure that you know what African Ambassador is about. It's not just the celebration of today, but it's a celebration of making every day as Africa Day, which is why our slogan is hashtag Make Every Day Africa Day. And of course, we want to thank our partner, the founders of this program, which is the department that always encourages young people to be in the forefront of Pan-Africanism. So we are going to have a nice program today, packed with discussions, with entertainment, and of course for our exhibitors as well, to showcase their work and for you guys to support what they have in store for us. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Africa Lifestyle Festival 2022. So ladies and gentlemen, join me as we welcome Ntate Matalana Makgotla. Give him a round of applause.
Is this how we celebrate, guys?
We set the tone of Africa Lifestyle Festival. We would like to call upon Ntate Makgotla Madikhetla, who is representing the department, the district municipality of Sedibeng. So ladies and gentlemen, let us give him a warm round of applause.
Dumelang batswadi. Ke a le dumedisa kaofela. Ke nna Ntate Makgotla Madikhetla. Let me take this opportunity to greet everybody in our midst. My name is Makgotla Madikhetla. I am from Sedibeng District Municipality. I am the coordinator for social development, but I'm also here with my colleague Vusimuzi, who is a manager for youth and gender from the office of the executive mayor. So we are actually both of us here to stand on behalf of the executive mayor who couldn't make it due to other commitments of the municipality. Without further ado, let me take this opportunity as I've greeted everyone. First of all, I would also like to acknowledge the presence here of Director General Sreken Age. We would like to really appreciate your presence in our midst. Mostly we appreciate being the district that is able to host this particular event today here at Kholofelo under the banner of Sedibeng District Municipality, which constitute of 3 local municipalities, which is Mfuleni, Lesedi local municipality, and also Midval local municipality. It is our appreciation that Face of Val Vivian continue constantly to remember where it comes from, because it started early Face of Val, it went to Face of Mzansi, and we appreciate that today this is where we are under an African ambassadorship. We appreciate that so much upon this day that we are able to host this particular event, and also we appreciate Face of Val for what is doing in the Val in assisting the municipality in order to address the issues of social reforms, addressing the imbalances of the past, as we know the history of South Africa in particular as one of the country within the African continent. And also we appreciate that Face of Val is actually helping us as well to promote the spirit of Ubuntu and Pan-Africanism amongst our region. And then we are all aware that currently there are emerging social ills that are taking place. One, in our schools, there's a lot of immorality that is happening amongst our young people. Secondly, we know we are talking about substance abuse. There's issues of gender-based violence and also corruption that continues to steal from the future of our children. We believe that all these things that are happening amongst our young people and also within our schools are just speaking a single thing: reconnection to our roots, to our origin as Africans, but also they are talking to ensure that we bring young people back into our culture so that we build that sense of Ubuntu amongst our young people. Because when you look in the media, when you look at number of things, you will find young people are always the one that are appearing to be at the forefront of negativity that is happening in our community. So we believe that if young people are taken back into their African origin, for them to inherit that spirit of Ubuntu, for them to be able to protect that sense of respect to our elders. That's what our generation grew up. We were raised with that sense of saying, have respect for your elders. Your parent is not only those parents, but everybody in the community becomes your parent. So nowadays we see young people wearing school uniform and doing funny things busi on the streets in front of other parents. And that's not how we were taught when we were growing up within our culture. So we are saying in the day, in the month of Africa, let's go back to our roots as Africans. Let's not bring the westernized type of teachings into our children and reconnect them into our child. So to say, how satimi mo yanting, mo twanting, hahona mo tlayanting. So it is important that we reconnect our young people. The biggest thing is also to connect them with our culture. Within our households, on the basis of them being fluent in English. Of course, they should be fluent, but we need to make sure that when they talk to us, when they talk to their grandparents, they are able to address them in English as well. In conclusion, I would like to say, let us embrace our origin as Africans, promote the spirit of Ubuntu, take pride in our African culture, and ensure that our households continue to uphold our African wisdom and origin. Welcome everybody. May the good Lord bless you.
Young people, we need to take accountability and ownership of heritage ya rona, setso sa rona, because setso sa rona ke sona se re shapang, setso sa rona ke sona se etsang hore re understande le hore batho ba bang ba re dulang le bona as Africans, where we come from with them. But before we go to our panel discussion and also our amazing entertainment, I'm now going to call upon to deliver the keynote address in order for us to now move on to the panel discussion. It is, of course, Ntate Vusimuzi Mkhize, who is the Director General of the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. He's our keynote address for today. So ladies and gentlemen, let us give him a warm round of applause.
Sanbonan. Dumelang. Program Director, Ms. Mabele, the leadership and representative of the Sedibeng District Municipality, who is here today and who have just given us a great warm welcome on the Sedibeng. Sedibeng is I have a very soft spot for me because this is where I cut my teeth at a very level of being a district director in education here for 5 years. So when I'm back here, I feel like I'm back home. And then whenever I pass the VUT, I always remember the former rector when he was always excited about the eagle has landed. So thank you very much for this opportunity. To the young ambassadors who are here and the future ambassadors, I'm sure that the recruitment of ambassadors have not stopped, Ms. Mabele. You will still continue to have them and the space for the young ones to join the youth. Members of the media who are present, ladies and gentlemen, and all protocol observed, as we say, but also the owners of Capella. I think we must thank them for making this venue available. And public-private partnership is always important. And we appreciate that they have made this particular magnificent, beautiful venue to be accessible for this particular event. It is a great pleasure for me to stand here before you representing my department, Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. The department is extremely proud to be associated with this initiative. The initiative that seeks to really mobilize young people of our continent and our country, calling on them to be the ambassadors of change and the transformation of our continent from a negative narrative and the shackles of colonialism, as well as be able to have an opportunity to imbue in our children and our youth a sense of pride and understanding on what it means to be African. So when we call for change in Africa, we're talking about fundamental change in the lives of our people and making sure this continent is a continent of light. This is the only continent that promotes Ubuntu, and therefore only continent that embraces everyone and teaches others what it means to relate with other human beings without describing them as inferior on the basis of their color, race, religious belief, or anything else, but seeing a human being for who he or she is. So the ambassadors, we want them to continue the fight against all ills that our country and the continent faces. This might be GBV, might be racism, might be issues of unemployment, inequality. These are the things that Africa, unfortunately, has to fight against to ensure that at the end of the day, we claim our rightful position. And we make sure that we discredit anything that is prejudicial to the interest of Africans. We can't do that if our young people, who constitutes 60% of our continent, are left unemployed, uneducated, and exposed to all negative social ills, which might thwart their ambitions to be who they are according to their God-given endowment and potential. So the youth places a significant burden and responsibility upon us, the elderly, in making sure that we begin to give them a sense of self-confidence that colonialism was not an end, but an opportunity for us now to demonstrate our capacity to rise beyond the ashes of that pernicious ideology. So, Program Director, this year's Africa Month program is celebrated under the theme Strengthening Resilience in Nutrition and Food Security on the African continent for a better Africa and a better world. We need our films, and I'm sure there are young filmmakers here who have a potential to tell our story. Some of you might not know about the history of Val. In fact, the first rent boycott started here. There is a church by Ubaba Kamel. That is where the real resistance now to say freedom in our lifetime was here. There is richness of our culture, of our resistance in this particular area of Sedibeng. But young people don't know that. They don't even know they are heroes. Even our greatest jazz people, Ubaba Peter Tladi, is from here. Judge Malindi, mhlambe niyamazi, is from Sebokeng, is now a judge. So Sedibeng leadership has got huge potential, and we are really proud that you are part of the young leaders who are here. So there will be those number of activities, dialogues, and there are fashion makers here. So naminga is a lot of exhibition. Let's make sure that when we leave here, even if you buy one item, so that our creatives have a sense that we value what they do. And it was a brilliant idea to have those exhibitions. Fashion, I'm sure with exhibitions, there will be colloquiums, indigenous games, various, about 32 activities. We would like you to participate in them and make sure that you are involved. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Director General, for those beautiful words of support, and of course encouraging us, the ambassadors, to continue with the legacy of Pan-Africanism and Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Izingazu Zomhlaba.
alinamthetho. Lelizwe alinamthetho. Lelizwe alinamthetho imbeko. Notshulathina kubo.
Thank you so much. Give them a round of applause. Ay man. Ho monate jwang ho bona ha batjha le bona ba leng hore ba embrace culture bona ka tsela e. Thank you so much to Gogo for still continuing to mentor these girls. All right, I'm going now to call upon our panelists so that we can move on to our conversation, re-debating, and let us make it interactive. We'd like to hear your views from the floor, what your thoughts are about our discussion. So let us make it very conversational because we are here to come up with solutions on how we can be proudly Africans and pro-African. All right, I'm going to call upon onto the stage our panelist members, Ms. Luyanda Sithole, who is the board member of Lakeside Eco-Tourism Development Convening. She is the Lakeside Eco-Tourism Development, and we are going to be discussing how to convert culture and heritage into revenue. So ladies and gentlemen, join me as we welcome Ms. Luyanda onto the stage. Okay, our first panelist, I'm going to request that Ms. Luyanda just tell us about what you do, our panelists, and then we're going to start with the conversation, just to talk about your work and how we can convert culture into revenue as young people.
Firstly, thank you for this opportunity, Vanolia. I'm glad I could be part of this initiative. And I think firstly, I would like to reiterate the importance of language that has been touched on, because with the vision or us envisioning in Africa without borders, obviously the world has become so small. Actually, at the Kaga, with the Kagas, it turned out that they were all Congolese, which is really good, because really we are, shying away, we're not xenophobic and all of that, and I actually could converse with them in French, which is another language that I can speak, and I'm fortunate, and having been fortunate to actually visit the country as well, so their faces lit up, so as I touch on heritage and culture as, converting into revenue, form of language. If you're able to say bonjour, tout le monde, je suis la charge de batterie du force pour it's also a mechanism of generating income, because you can be an interpreter. We miss that, but we are just too confined to just being one-dimensional in our thinking. And as a South African, also, it's important to be able to be broad in your approach with the different languages. So a responsibility was to profile the World Heritage Sites in Africa. As you all know, that we still have a long way to go to meet the global scope, where there's a 1,157 World Heritage Sites in Africa, with its rich resources and minerals that we boast, and yet we haven't come close. So from that perspective, I not only touch on intangible heritage, with this, what your language is, the heritage that you can touch and feel, but also the heritage of tangibility, your tangible heritage, the sites. And South Africa is currently leading with 10 World Heritage Sites in Africa, and it's impressive, but there could be more. So until recent years, the role of heritage, has been confined and just understood to be a passive guardian of the past, and also just viewed, often as a burden or a hindrance to development. And we have seen, fortunately, a new view now is that we found that we're reflecting and the development of, it's changing. There's more also a developmental a consumption aspect to just the production of, our culture and heritage. And that has opened up opportunities for, globally for people to tap into the space. It's been, the heritage sector has been an untapped market, and in a sense that people didn't think they could exploit it because of a lack of knowledge. But now we see that creativity and knowledge is now been recognized as a strategic asset, and also just an engine, of a powerful engine that can help transform and grow, provide growth in the economy. So there's now kind of spaces opening up for now knowing that you can consume culture, you can consume things of nature, as opposed to what has just been driven, the Louis Vuittons, the Gucci's. We are embracing it, and which is most pivotal. You cannot promote culture without embracing it. That's the first step. You've got to be proud of the foundation of who you are, where you're from. That's how you are able to educate and actually sell your product.
Thank you very much, Ms. Luyanda. So I think I'm just going to, because we've already now went deep into the yes, I'm not going to give them an opportunity as yet. I think let's just get into that. As you see, we have exhibitors today, right? But we play in the small space. How do we move forward? Because today we are about solutions. How do exhibitors from our country promoting our culture move forward to explore into other countries in the continent as well as in the world? And do you believe, since you've traveled, you are well traveled, do you feel that there's an opportunity for us, because you've seen how they consume culture, how they consume heritage? So for the South Africans, what do you think is the way forward for us?
Well, definitely there is an opportunity, and there is, we live in the digital era now as well, where we should develop tools, digital tools, to drive or enhance the heritage sector, and in order to also create sustainable not tourism, but appreciation, but also going back to first embrace your products. You always need to distinguish yourself, because again, we know that we also tend to duplicate, and not be as original, and people are now about authenticity. This is now in the wider scope of the African continent. So being innovative in your approach to what you sell. But also what actually touched me just recently, the former Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, received he was tagged or received a gift by ShopRite, and it was a tin of maotwana, so canned maotwana, and you would have thought, and actually the letter said, this has been developed by an Andries or Arian Drake. I was so touched. I mean, I'm sure Drake has never even eaten maotwana ow, and that is something I grew up eating. We stole, but a black person couldn't think of that initiative. That is wrong, because we don't see ourselves as producers, but as just consumers. And the landscape has changed from a space of just being consumers, but of production, But within being a producer, you must be creative, think creatively, stand out, and form those partnerships. And even, I cannot stress also the importance of language again, It's because you may not even because other countries are quite sensitive to the language, and I'll go back to Congo as well, you know, so when you want people to warm up to you as well, try and also reach out to them in their language. I promise you, even the product that you sell may not be as good as, you know, but it will appeal. It will open up a gap and a sense of appeal. So that should be stressed, but also networking at home, you know, because the people that you network with, you might not have been exposed internationally, but they are exposed internationally. Have them also sell your product through ambassadorship, you know, programs where they become your voice. In a case where you cannot be that voice. But there is a gap in the rest of Africa, but the issue is especially locals not embracing us. We love the Western culture so much. We live for it. We have Western weddings. We have, you know, and you actually even have a traditional wedding and they think you're not even married. It's crazy. Exactly. You know, yet it's a customary marriage which is recognized, you know, by law. So all those things, it's a lack that I feel that as South Africans, because as correctly said, I've really been fortunate to travel the world. And what I see, if you go to Mali, for example, there is a Mali culture. In South Africa, we tend to be entrenched in the divisions of our tribes, that we don't have a black culture. You know, it's important to have a black culture before your tribes. What is it as South Africans are we standing for? And then in the bigger scope of Africa, what is it as black people? What is it as black people? What brand, what African brand as black people in the continent do we have? For example, if you get to World Heritage Sites, we are following the UNESCO brand, which then also forgets the criteria of why we call our properties heritage properties, where it is still a challenge, the liberation route being signed off because the UNESCO brand does not understand the thinking and the history of Africa, that they don't see it fit for certain areas in the continent to fit the profile of World Heritage status. It doesn't make sense. So we need an African brand as black people, but for South Africa, we need to have a black culture. If you go to Makgotla, the Afrikaners, yes, you have the English, you have the Afrikaans, but they have a white culture. You know, they become one in instances where they need to be one. But Runa, this is just unnecessary divisions, but that's why we aren't even able to consume our own products, because it's that whole thing of you know, mangmang ke mosoto and ke product you know, so it doesn't make sense. But then we are so quick to unite and form partnerships, you know, and support into Samahoa, you know, without question. But when it comes to our own, it's a bit of a challenge.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Luyanda. Yes, definitely. Let's change that narrative. Mr. Nota, you are a music exec and a music mogul. Entrepreneurial space in the music industry, how we consume, you know, music and our culture. What is your take on that?
I had the opportunity to speak to 50 Cent. Do you guys know 50 Cent?
They're too young.
You don't know 50 Cent?
Aye.
So I had the opportunity to ask 50 Cent, what is it going to take, Mr. 50 Cent, for South African rappers to be looked at as people who you guys consume their music, instead of South Africa as a market being just a consumer base? And he went on to explain for 5 minutes while speaking to me. Now, this was at a press conference with journalists that wanted to ask him stupid questions. What 50 Cent told me is that you guys need to be big here first. Make yourself big in your own country first. I was 18 years old. I'm 32 years old now. Between the time I was 18 years old, I was able to make myself big in my own country. I was able to make sure that we take this hip-hop thing and we own it as South Africans. right? We accept this black culture that is coming from Americans, and we accept them as our own African brothers, and we take what they are giving to us, which is music that is celebrated all over the world, and we infuse it with our own culture, and we tell our own stories. And that's how we were able to commercialize South African hip-hop and make it something that the youth can resonate with and authentically tell the stories of South Africans. Today you've got Amapiano. It is a direct derivative of the work that we were capable of doing. Amapiano videos have got over 2 billion views on TikTok. Now, Chinese kids developed an app called TikTok where you can share videos, but Chinese kids can't dance like South African kids. So when South African kids took that technology of TikTok, I knew that the whole entire world was going to change immediately.
Yeah.
I got TikTok maybe 6 years ago. And I just opened up a profile, I saved the thing, and I said, when South African kids touch this TikTok app, you'll see what TikTok can do. We've been able to see what TikTok can do. Now the entire world is dancing to the beat of Amapiano. Why? We're culturing them. We're colonizing them with our culture. None of the people that are celebrated, that are making the world dance, are any different from any of you girls. They're not more capable. They're not smarter than you. You know, they don't have anything that you guys do not have. Everything that you guys need is here. We're in the Vaal. What is famous about the Vaal? Yeah, but what is famous about the Vaal? Nothing. But do you know that this Vaal River, right? This Vaal River flows all the way, it becomes the Orange River. And then when it reaches the ocean, it spits out diamonds. This Vaal River, when it reaches the ocean, it spits out diamonds. So the people that come here or live here, you guys are the diamonds. Once we present you to the rest of the world, to the Orange River, to the ocean, you are spitting out diamonds. The focus too much in this country has been on creating the value of what's underneath the ground. Today I'm about to tell you something revolutionary that you must never forget. Whatever is underneath the soil of South Africa is worth nothing compared to us who are on top of the soil. Us who are living, us who are breathing, us who've got potential to change the world that we live in, to change our narrative, to change ourselves from scarcity to abundance, because we have in abundance. Our consumption needs to be a revolutionary act. Back in the days before you guys were born, the rest of the world did not consume South African products because our country was an apartheid state. And they said, we're not going to help beneficiate an apartheid state. We want them to integrate, we want them to have democracy, we want them to give a voice to the voiceless. Even you, a young black girl from Sedibeng, which is, what is it? It's 3 different municipalities. You guys know them, nah? Midvaal, Mfuleni, and Lesedi. What is that? Huh? What is Lesedi? Huh?
Light.
Yes, we're giving light to this place which they called the Dark Continent. Why did they call this place the Dark Continent? Because of our skin. They didn't understand what our skin is for. Our skin is to protect us. Our skin is part of evolution. It stops us from being abused by the sun, which causes you to age. Right? Which causes you to age. So it's a protective shield. It's not darkness, it's melanin. It's what beautifies us. It's what makes sure that you, as young as you guys are, when you are 80 years old, we can still recognize you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nota. You are very passionate about this discussion, and I wish we had more time, but because we still have other activities that we need to do, we need to move a bit faster. So, Ms. Julia, you have studied in a university, and you've stayed in South Africa for quite a while. And I remember we had a discussion the other day about this perception that people have about South Africa. So as an international student, what is your take on this narrative of, how we perceive black Africans we are more easier to say foreigners when it comes to black foreigners, but with whites we say tourists, you know. So yeah, so let's just take it there as to Wena, what has been your experience and why should that narrative change?
Hi everyone, so I'm Julia Makekita, I'm a chemical engineer. I've been in the Val for quite long.
Yeah.
And we understand that when it comes to black people, yes, it feels so weird that you have to feel or hear your fellow black person call you a foreigner.
Yeah.
But they will only pick it up when we talk. Because I've been spoken to most of the time in Zulu. I've been confused with a Zulu or a Swati. We do not look different. But I think it's mostly because of the international image of African in general. Because they're selling us to be the poor people who are always going somewhere to gain something better. But they're not telling us about how much business people coming from Europe with just maybe $100, like 1,000 rand in their pocket, becoming rich in South Africa. Those one have come, benefit from the opportunity in South Africa, but we don't call them foreigner. We call them tourists. We call them investors, while they benefit from the government more than other black people. So from where I stand, I think it's our role as African people first to accept the other African in front of you, that he is your brother, first of all. He's not the foreigner you see, like they would call us. I hate the terms. We come to take the jobs, but most of black Africans that are in South Africa have created businesses. You'll hear the hotels are foreigners. You hear the small shops when it comes to African food. It's your black brother who's selling it, because you maybe don't know about certain, when we're talking about heritage, we're talking about culture, that's what we're importing. I'm coming from Congo. I speak French. I speak Lingala. I'm bringing my culture to South Africa. You go to the city, you go to Joburg, there is that space where there's a lot of Congolese at Yovel. You're having your South African policemen that understand my home language because I have imported it. But he will also teach me about his home language because I came to his land. So we do not feel like we are foreigners, but we are taught that we are foreigners when we come here. But which doesn't make sense, because at the end of the day, we all look alike. The difference comes when I open my mouth. Only that. As long as I stay quiet, you will not know who I am. So that's a problem where we feel threatened when we hear another African fellow coming to your land and making it better. Shouldn't be a threat. It should be actually a challenge. How come he comes from elsewhere and is making it better than me? At the end of the day, I'm not allowed to have a loan in a certain domain because I'm a foreigner, national. I'm not allowed to go to the bank and just say, this is my ID, consider my business plan. They will not do that. But I'll go to the street, sell the bread, I don't know, whatever that I'll find on the street, gather money from maybe people from my community, not even them, like other communities, and then build a business and hire my fellow South African. But still feel like, no, you're not allowed to do this. But what happens when others, like, let's talk about BE, which is one of the biggest things when it comes to economical freedom in South Africa. BE was created to serve South African first, and black South African. But do we know, I know a lot of South Africans don't know, that BEE consider your Chinese and your Indian as black. So I'm less black than a Chinese in South Africa. It's not about my skin tone. It's about how impactful they are on the South African government, because they bring money on the table. But I am less black on paper than a Chinese person. The Chinese will claim a better BEE than another foreigner black from another African country, which feels completely weird, but that's the case.
Exactly. and I think I'm going to take it from there. You are feeling less black in your own continent just because of the narrative and the colonization that has been implanted in us. And that is why it will be difficult for us to penetrate the African continent and be able to turn our cultures into revenue, because that's what today's topic is about, how to convert our culture and heritage into revenue. So how do we do that when we are so mentally enslaved? And I think it goes back now to what you said, Sis Luyanda, about exploring the heritage sites. But we need to start exploring our country first. You know, how do you feel about the tourism space in the country? Do you feel that we are traveled as South Africans?
Well, actually, I feel that South Africa is not as explored as it should be by South Africans, predominantly because of the brainwashed mentality that Dubai, is better off only when you post a status that you've been in Dubai or the Maldives or in Greece. That, you've been on vacation. And yet, simple, there's Mapungubwe, it's one of the World Heritage Sites. It's, there's so much richness there. And I think what many of you don't get to understand that when an area is deemed a World Heritage Site and is given that status, it is such a prestigious brand that it elevates the profiling of that place, that it equates it to an Eiffel Tower, or a Tower of Pisa in Italy, So, but only when you get to be in Paris, it should be seen as more attractive, and it's much cooler. And yet there are so many beautiful places in Africa. I did mention that South Africa is currently leading the world's, or the African status, the continent, with the most World Heritage Sites, 10 of them. And so that on its own, it puts us at a different level. But because there hasn't been a shift in mentality and also broadening of mind from an education perspective of trying to understand the history behind all these heritage properties that we boast. I mean, many, I'm sure, are just limited to knowing Robben Island, because of the history, Madiba history, and, just the past. But what about the Cape Flora and Fauna? Table Mountain on its own is not a World Heritage Site, but it is made a heritage site by all these other properties around it, the flora, the beauty of the vegetation there, the biodiversity that exists. And then you have Isimangaliso in KZN, but people just think, no, let me just go see Durban. So it really takes that much commitment to being, to get to a certain level of education around this. That's when, as a South African, you can actually even sell your product, because South Africa is your product. Really, it's your core, it's who you are, before you are, a person of the African continent or the world, and you should take pride in that. We are spoiled for choice in the level of space that we have, the yards that we have in Africa. Actually, the beauty of both natural nature and culture. Not just, because in other places you won't find the sea, but you'll find the mountains. In other places you won't find the mountains, but you'll find the sea. But in South Africa, you get both. We have the luxury to be, to have a bit of both. So people from abroad are rushing to exploit that. Why don't we do it, exploit it ourselves? You go to Tanzania, the, Ngorongoro, the Serengeti area. I can list so many, beautiful areas, but the locals do not get to enjoy it as much as the tourists, because they see beyond what meets the eye. So that's why we lose making revenue out of our properties, because we don't see beyond. We tend to be myopic, you know, and not have insight to be able to be innovative around the things that the internationals want, which we have at our disposal. So until that mentality shift is driven, we still have a long way to go.
Exactly. And I think, I hope our exhibitors are also listening, and to those that wants to explore the continent and the world, hore, we need to start looking and understand, proud before we can look at the outside and see, and like you said, you need to be big in your own country first before you can go further. So that is how we can convert our culture into revenue and own that narrative. And it starts with us loving one another and loving our fellow brothers and sisters as well from other continents. But responsible. You can't just be happy when someone comes into the country and becomes very disruptive. That we do not condone. But we should be Pan-Africanists and in order for us to move forward. So with that, I hope that, you know, we are now getting a clarity of what opportunities are out there and how we can be more creative in accessing the world and the continent. So if there are any questions from the floor that we can ask our experts here in front before we go home empty-handed. So if there is any question, we've got our music exec and we've got Sis Luyanda, who is very knowledgeable about the heritage and our culture, and of course our international friend who is also here, who is also a chemical engineer, and we were supposed to talk about climate change, remember? But I'm saving you today. So if we have any questions, by the show of hands, please. Otherwise, I am asking all the questions. Okay.
Oh yes, Ms. Mvelazi. Igama ubusiwe wakabhukhwana kodwa ngendele kwaKhumalo. So bazongibiza uMakhumalo. Yangeza maybe. Mine is the conversation is quite intriguing, I must say, colleagues. And it's lovely to see young people leading it. And for a second there, I thought I was going to lash out at the directors from Sports and Rec for going out while we were engaging on this. Because I think you guys have raised a number of issues that would then need, they're great, well and all for us to sit here and talk to, but they can only be effected when the decision makers, abaphathi bemali, can do those things.
The parents.
The parents, and I see Nota nodding his head. I am saying that because in my history with Mr. Madikhetla in youth development in this country, there has been great strides. There is young people with great minds, great ideas, Nota, creatives, talented, great potential, whether it could be in the arts itself, in the music industry, in business, in innovation, and. But you find the biggest inhibitors in us succeeding in creating this brand Africa or brand South Africa is in us getting the correct resourcing behind it. When I say resourcing, a lot of people would think just the financial muscle on its own. But even the education itself, director or who the big shots in the room, needs resourcing. An example, for this conversation to take place today, there must be mobilization, there must be material developed, there must be research, and there must be support. And there should be an end goal. We talk about things, a young person gets sparked, they get interested to say, yeah, I want to create revenue out of my heritage or my culture. But the question becomes, does that young person know where they're going to knock? Which company they're going to speak to? Which department they should be directed to? Coming to that, are these departments or our governments or these so-called institutions, the policies that are in place, do they speak to these things that we're speaking to? Because for this state to do anything, for this government to do anything, they need a strategic framework. And that is influenced by young people sitting and participating, Mr. Makgotla. Just last week, the district had their IDP, Integrated Development Plan, which is basically the business plan for the municipality, for the whole district. And it was quite appalling, George, for me to see that there was not enough youth stakeholders, the voice of young people, speaking and influencing that document. And 5 years down the lines, the politicians are going to come back, complain, we're going to complain, they're going to campaign and say there was 7 billion budgeted for, it was spent on infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. But yet you still have an unemployment rate of young people in this country that is over 30%, now approaching 40%. And that, a big number of it, about 50% of that being young women. It's a challenge. How are we in these platforms? Particularly the Department of Sports and Rec is going to assist these young women and young people in general in making sure that we create sustainable economies out of these cultures and our heritage at that. An example would be, we're sitting in the Val, madam. We have the Sharpeville Monument in Sharpeville. No one is talking about that here. And Africa, we're trying to educate one another. We're saying immediate opportunity. Nota ubuaka, the Val River and diamonds. Ask Abuan to hold. We have a monument. Here, we have a theater, the State Theater, that is here. How is that, those facilities being used to nurture the talents of these young people? Being used to make sure that these kids are able to feed their families. That organizations like Ambassadors for Africa are able to really create, get assisted. So I would have loved for the leadership in the room to really take this not just as a talk show, as they would say, to say, how do we assist young people in channeling, particularly their interests, their talents, and making sure that this heritage they understand. Also, when we speak about our heritage and pride in being Africans and xenophobia, it cannot be that us as South Africans, when we're not proud of who we are, then would be able to welcome other people from outside the country. Number one, South Africans, we don't see ourselves as part of Africa. When we call other people foreigners, we don't include South Africans. And for the fact of the matter is, when you go and travel to other parts of Africa, you yourself, you'd be called a foreigner. And what causes that as a problem in itself is the fact that we don't have the financial means to be able to travel. Not even abroad, even local. You find there's a 16-year-old that lives in Sebokeng but has never seen Johannesburg, a CBD. You find a young person in Mpumalanga that does not know what Limpopo looks like. Our education system, government, partnering, where is the budget for that? Excursions. When I was still in high school, I was fortunate enough to go to a school that allowed for recreation to properly happen, and they taught us. There was social cohesion programs, and I'm glad that Department of Sports and Culture nationally still has such programs, where they have the National Youth Camp, and they try and impart patriotism amongst our young people. But those programs that are speaking positive and that are trying to build this country are not given credit. They're not spoken about enough. We're not making the right noises. Those things are there in place. But the reason that is happening is because those things are being championed by people who don't take it seriously. And you will pardon me for saying this, it's gonna sound ageism, but it's elderly people who don't speak the language of this generation. And how you articulate, when you want these young people to hear you, you must speak their language. So for you to speak their language, you must hire young people who can relate, who speaks their language, who can transfer that knowledge, that information. So it's imperative, especially amongst us young people, to really, let's inform ourselves, apply ourselves, knock at doors. One of the biggest challenges that we face is that we don't do with compliance. We're not organized as young people in this country. And when we're not organized, it's easier for the system to say who we assist, because we don't know who. Every day you get somebody different knocking in my door. But if you are a young youth forum in heritage, and you're saying sports and rec Sedibeng municipality, as a youth heritage, as young people from Liseri, from Emfuleni, from Midval, this is what we want to get done. Then it becomes easier for those in place to communicate that to others. Same thing in the music industry. Same things, whether it's in academia or otherwise. So I would want to say, particularly the question I wanted to ask the lady from Ayanda, you said, yes, Luyanda. She's from an organization that speaks to tourism, right? And in the tourism sector, there's disorganization. My question would therefore be, what are you doing? What programs are in place to assist young people in the sector? Particularly, for an example, you're visiting Sedibeng today. What do you have in place to assist young people in the tourism sector, to get them organized, but also to assist them in reaching and accessing these opportunities that you speak of? You say you're well-traveled. How do we get 2 more girls in this room to be as well-traveled as you are? Thank you.
Thanks, V. I think what Busi has raised is so critical. I'm seated here and I'm analyzing the panelists speaking, but now I've got a challenge to say this is only coming now. We have what is called African Month and so forth, which is what at the government level, this is what young people have often been complaining about. Yes. To say, Makgotla, you only come now because it's Youth Month. And youth development is not about an event of a particular month. It's something that is continuous, something that is affecting young people, you know, across the board. So, of course, we would also flag our issues with the Department of SREC and Age here to say, this shouldn't be an event of today. Luyanda, you know, Vivian, my brother there, he even had to ask this young ladies to come and sit in front because he had seen them not being clearly in touch with what was discussed, and he had to call them here. So what I'm saying is that I think the youth in the community at their age, they are not that exposed, or they are not that, you see what she's doing, she's agreeing with me to say, they are not exposed, such engagement of this nature are not taking place even in schools. So I think the question that Busi raised now, to say what programs are in place, what interventions are in place, that would instill that sense of patriotism, that would still, the things that you are raising, the spirit of Ubuntu and the ways that you are playing with. What is it that is done at that level? Your organization, Luyanda, you know, you are in Sedibeng. Moving forward, thankful to Face of Mzansi for having bringing here. Of course, it means as practitioners in government and in the municipality, we are actually saying, guys, we like this, would like to refer it to the mayor, share with the mayor the greatness that this was, and then sustaining it. Ms. Velas, how do we move forward sustaining this particular engagement with young people? I think in my opening I did also indicate the issue of social ills that are happening in the community. And to me, those social ills, they end up happening in our communities, partly because of the issue of moral regeneration. And moral regeneration, you cannot speak moral regeneration without taking young people into their roots. You know, probably the reason why these young people are behaving like this, they are crying for identity. It's a way of showing that, you know, I don't know where I belong. I don't have sense of belonging. There's so much negativity that is happening around me. And can somebody come, you know, to rescue me in this situation? And I think your organization can actually play a vital role, CISV, you know, in instilling that sense of Ubuntu, patriotism, and showing and instilling that sense of belonging amongst our young people. But thanks a lot, and I am requesting if there is, I'm not sure if Ntate is still here from the Department of SREC and Age.
Yes, Untaliteng. He
Untaliteng.
actually wants to,
oh, he's there,
to respond.
Yeah, I think we need to have some sort of discussion and see how best can we sustain this so that it's not limited into this month of May as an Africa month thing, but it becomes something that is, traditionally happening in our space. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask. I would basically just like to ask about, okay, so in my generation, I'm an 18-year-old girl, and from what I've seen, I'm one person who I really have an interest in politics and obviously just talking about so many controversial things, among my circle. But I've seen that for one thing that has really disturbed me in terms of schools, right? We're African, we're South African, and as far as I'm concerned, our government, is predominantly black. Yeah. And in that being said, why isn't it a main thing? That is one of my questions. Why isn't it a main thing to create native languages, minimum at least 3, in every government school, as we are led by people who are of this country, right? And I've seen that in, maybe let me make an example, this specific language, Afrikaans being the main language that we have to learn on a daily basis, it is actually crippling a lot of children who, from actually even progressing to other grades, but it's not the language that they are taught, it's not the language that they grew up learning. So why are we still stuck in the same system of learning something that is not actually, motivating us to be more cultural and involved? And sometimes, if we're being realistic, 90% of the time we're not at home. We are at school. And so our schools need to actually put us in an environment where we are allowed to, at break, or ma'am, can we have a discussion with our friends, maybe even speaking in our language, and then we can address in, the language which is English that we all relate with. So that is the first thing, like the environment that we've been in hasn't really kind of motivated us to go for that cultural aspect of things. Already in our curriculum, we are not allowed to speak about politics. And politics is part of our lifestyle, it's part of our everyday life. Absolutely. Hence why youth is so resistant towards political affairs or towards growing ourselves in each and every single part of every industry. We don't have knowledge on it, so we don't care. Or we look at it from a certain perspective that is so distant that we can't tap in and be like, oh, actually, I think I can create a solution for this and find somebody who will take us under their wing. Because we're there. We do want to work with people, but we feel as though there are people who are in power who are kind of resisting what we could bring. At the end of the day, as young people, we see issues that they may not see. They are at a hierarchy which they're at the top. That means that it kind of, their view can be limited to what is happening at the bottom, which is what we see. And us being young, we have services. There are people out there who are young. I have friends who are looking around like, what can we actually better in our community, right? Last year, we opened an organization called For the Youth, by the Youth. And we've been trying to push it. And one thing that we learned is we started to create conversations for boys, young boys and males, that, okay, guys, so you are a boy. What do you think it is to become a man? And a lot of these things are so materialistic and it doesn't even make sense. And I watch and I see how we every single day find ourselves so distant from who we are. And going back to identity, we are having an identity crisis. We don't know where we stand. We're so caught up in the rest of the world that we forget that we can't say that. We say hello to adults. It's just one of those things where the smallest things have forced us to fall out of love with who we are. And I feel like maybe you guys can give an opinion or even just help us as young people to motivate each other every day, and wear it with pride. And we need that. We need that even in our music. We don't even know the likes of Hugh Masekela. We're just looking at every single thing that is out there in the world. But what about our culture? We have beautiful music and be in tune, but we're not in tune. So how do you think we can be in tune with one another? And again, not just make it about Youth Day and Youth Month, but make every day, like you said, African Day. How do we do that?
Amen. Director, Wabona Hormara, who is a African ambassador. Number one, exactly, we are pushing this agenda. You wanted to comment, and I think you are the relevant person to comment on some of the issues that were raised.
Like I said, I don't want to ask a question, but I just want to contribute to the discussion that is taking place here by young people.
Can I assist with
And maybe so much to agree with the panelists in terms of what they've been putting forward and the comments that have been coming from the floor. I always believe that it is so much in our hands and so much in the hands of the young people. I think it has been said over and over again that South Africa, the continent, Africa, is made up of young people. So it means that it can be done, and the people who we are waiting for to do these things are ourselves. I think the young lady over there said something very fundamental that, you know, if the majority, if this government is our government, we are the one responsible for the policies, and we are aware of the challenges from education to health and all other spaces. What is stopping us to do the right thing? What are we waiting for? If our struggle for liberation, for freedom was won, what are we waiting for? Because we know exactly what needs to be done. We have always known what needs to be done. I always say that it starts with a dream. Dream it, do it. The other thing that I think is basically from where we are coming from in the education system that we have been exposed to growing up, that taught us to be the consumers of others, and we consume other people's product with so much passion.
Yes.
Be it food, be it clothes,
Yes.
be it music,
Sushi.
be it movies. We consume that with so much passion. I was saying to my colleague the other day that if Jesus Christ was black and from Venda, we were never going to follow him the way we do. But because he's foreign and we are tuned so much to believe in those that comes from outside, we do that and forgetting our own. You can never, there's nobody who's going to come and compete with you when you are a Mosotho and coming from China or anywhere else.
Yeah.
But you cannot compete with others in their own game, their own rules. Create your own and let's consume. Consuming our own product is support. Is supporting our own, and that's when, I mean, we got the biggest population. This continent is massive, and the borders for trading are open. Somebody was talking about the language. We have 11 official languages, but unfortunately, when knowing Chivenda, Sotho, Zulu, it still limits me to where I am. If there is an opportunity to work at a multilateral organization, to go and work in a French-speaking country, I'm limited because when you can't speak the language, and you can't go there and say, I speak 11 languages. I say, okay, which ones? They are still domestic languages. They only allow you to move from one province to another. So let's make ourselves ready so that we are able to compete with the rest. People who come into this country, majority of them, they're not coming here to look for jobs. They come here with skills that they use, either entrepreneurial skills, a salon, doing the hair, restaurant, you name it, things that we could be doing ourselves. But we are so much onto, we need jobs. We want to be employed. I grew up in Venda, rural Venda, and I can tell you we've got so much land that I could have been passionate about agriculture, food production, and I would have been very much successful. But I left Venda saying, no, I'm going to look for a job in Johannesburg. And still living, those who have always been owning the means of production of what we eat every day. Just think about it in Sedibeng. How many, the breakfast in the morning only, how many eggs are being consumed? In the lunch, how many chickens are being consumed? But because apartheid made us think that venturing into agriculture is when you didn't go to school. But you do go to school and do what? Because the skills that you acquire does not make you sustainable. Anybody here can be a doctor because you can Google, if I got a headache, what will be causing the headache? What do I take? But I don't know of any African doctor who have said, I have created my equivalent of a Panado. They still use what they found. But I want us to be creative, to be innovative, so that once we are innovative, and especially focusing in so much who we are, our indigenous knowledge systems, our heritage, because that is what inspires us. There is nobody out of this continent who will have thought of designing a dress that you are wearing, but it's inspired by our heritage. is inspired by the community we live in. So if we start looking at it that way, and we will be so proud of who we are, and we can be the best of best, as I think the gentleman has indicated, that you can be anything, you can be anybody, you can be where you want. I think there was an issue raised by Olusanda saying that, you know, Africa have the least heritage sites. And that is concerning, because the people who decide which heritage sites must be listed with UNESCO, it's not us. They are not using what we believe should be the criteria. They have their own criteria. What stops us? The same way that we have national heritage sites that are not necessarily world heritage sites. Why can't we have a continental heritage sites? And we list them from Robben Island to the Pyramid of Giza. And we manage them so well, our own resources, our own skills, our own understanding, other than, you know, waiting for others to tell us what will make your heritage more relevant. I don't want to take forever. I just thought I should comment, and you know, I can't come all the way here and I don't go back sharing what I have. And I want the young people really to talk.
Okay, and also just to comment on what you said, my lady. I think we are in the right space, and you did allude to the fact that this must not just be a talk show. All the programs that we do, there is a repertoire, and we send the recommendations, and we insist on these programs being implemented, because this is not a program of the department, but it's a program of African Ambassador which is supported. So we are the custodians of what needs to be done, and we, as social cohesion advocates as well, it is our responsibilities to make sure, because we are the voices of the communities, to make sure that what the communities want is what they will actually get, so that it doesn't just end here today, but they actually continue with it. And I just want to also, on that note, urge you guys to get into the platform of African Ambassador. We do have on the website a get in touch with us, and we want to get as much input from the communities to engage with us and to tell us what they would like to see changing. And especially with what you said with regards to languages, that must just not be end here, because I always speak about what actually is Afrikaans doing for us. Like when a child fails Afrikaans, they fail a grade. Why? What is it doing?
But we love
you know? Yeah.
We love Africans.
Exactly. No, but why must it be that you will fail if you don't pass Afrikaans? So your question was very relevant as a young person, because you are feeling Oguti. What is that doing for me? Yes, we are in South Africa, but why don't we have 3 indigenous languages that are being enforced? It's something that should be listened to, because it's said by the youth, for the youth. Ms. Luyanda.
Yes, I would just like to respond to your questions, ma'am. So the African World Heritage Fund actually is very, very vibrant in the youth space and empowering the youth. And personally as well, the travels that I keep talking about, I haven't been doing them alone. There's so many youth members that I've traveled with and been fortunate to mentor. But just because my profile on Instagram or Facebook, whatever I'm communicating, doesn't showcase that, because it is a personal profile, I can choose to just take a photo with whomever. You know, I'm building my own profile. But it does not necessarily mean that I embark on these travels on my own. There's actually what they call a youth program. Actually, it's currently happening now. They're in Cape Town. They gather every single year, without fail, more than 30 pupils from different parts of the continent and from different areas. And South Africa has to, because it is an organization formed under the auspices of the African Union, but under the leadership of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and Agency of the Sports, Arts and Culture Department. So they drive that aspect. And the Department of Environmental Affairs, from the criteria of UNESCO and getting the a heritage site to be a World Heritage, get the World Heritage status, they actually incubate. We have an internship program where there's graduates that after they do the internship at the African World Heritage Fund, they then get sent back to the Department of Environmental and incubated there, and they actually work permanently there. There's so many names, Kamohelo, Kola, there's actually Mpho from the Val, Mpho Kobedi, she comes under, I mentored her as well. So she was also part of that program where, you know, she's doing her internship at the African World Heritage Fund and traveling with me and getting exposed to all these ministerial events. Remember, we even did an event with the CEMAC region with the High Commissioner of Cameroon to South Africa. So all those, she's, you know, they get to be privy to all that, learning, but also empowering them. And then from an ecotourism perspective, that's when we drive the preservation and conservation of our heritage, which is something that we kind of neglected to talk about, that this rich heritage that we talk about needs you know, to be maintained, we need to own it and love it. That's how you're able to even promote it, you know, because then you find issues of vandalism in other areas, you know, Africa still has World Heritage sites that are on the danger list, you know, which is another aspect that needs to be taken care of, like in Congo. For example, all 5 World Heritage sites are in the danger list. Well, with the recent, it was cleared, you know, so all those, we need to take care of our heritage, to take care of our properties. So that's the education aspect that comes with ecotourism development. And then just on the language aspect, I would, your contribution was very, very important. But I also would like to also say just, you know, it would be good to also maybe change your attitude towards the Afrikaans language. I'm fluent in Afrikaans because of my background. Because, you know, take it as a self-investment. I actually had to go a step further and learn French. I mean, I can converse with the lady next to me in French because it's an investment on myself. Never take any language as an issue of, no, I shouldn't. Because remember, we are led by a black government, right? They're in charge, but the economy is still with the whites. Unfortunately, at times you have to knock on people that only speak Afrikaans that can actually open those doors for you. You know, I've been put in spaces where, you know, the maritime sector, you know, not that many black people are there. I found myself engaging with hardcore Afrikaans stakeholders. And they were shocked because ek kon nie daar praat. Ek's van Alwel Noord af. Ek het, you know, ek soek spronklik van Alwel Noord. Ek het vir die Vrystaat rugby en die gewerk. You know, and I'm very proud of that, you know, because it makes you stand out from the rest. You know, unfortunately, there is that element where other people will take you seriously if they relate to you. And the best way in which you can relate with a person is through language. And you see it with, you know, get into a space where you find Xhosas, you know, Xhosas, the different tribes, right? But I promise you, I would relate to a Xhosa speaking person faster because it's a language one, but not that they neglect anybody else. It's just there's so much warmth in knowing the power of language. So just an attitude change towards it. I fully get that it shouldn't hinder you. It shouldn't be made to hinder your progress in your studies.
Yes.
I think it should be an additional language, you know, but if it ever is made to be an additional language, take it.
Yes.
It will be to your benefit.
Yes.
If it's French is, take it. Spanish, you name it. The more languages that you can speak, Africa, the continent, speaks 5 languages, recognized UNESCO language, Arabic, Portuguese, French, you know, so you want to be part of that dialogue. You don't want to be left behind. No, in other instances, nobody can translate, you know? So you can put me anywhere in the continent, I'll swim. Because of what? The language that I embraced.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Luyanda. I think that was a very, very important point as far as language is concerned. And I think, again, what the young person was alluding to is the fact that it shouldn't hinder you from progress. But languages are very, very important for us to know. And I think one speaker did mention that it was you who mentioned that you were able to get through into your career because of languages. So let us not undermine languages, but it is still the colonizer's language. And why is it that not, Sesotho is not regarded as, if you don't know Sesotho, you will fail. It's a choice, So that's where we are going as young people. I think young people are now starting to be woke and understanding where they are coming from. And the youth of 1976, they knew what they were fighting for. We should know what our battle is, and that is to change the narrative. All right, I think today it was not only about the dialogue, but I see how passionate you are about this dialogue, and I'm really impressed. And it shows that we need to have more of these dialogues. We need to have more of these conversations, especially as the Sedibeng municipality has said as well, that this must not just be because it's Africa Day or because it's Africa Month, but it must happen consistently. And our government, I'm sure they are listening, and when we say, please, can we have this dialogue, they will listen to us, because it is for the betterment of this community. Because we do have young people that are very brilliant here, Mr. Rufus Matibe. All right, on that note, can we have closing remarks from our panelists after you've made your comment on your contribution?
I would like to make a comment regarding what the sir said regarding medicines and stuff. So I just wanted to point out, yes, there is brandings into African medication. It's just that we don't talk about it enough. And the problem is also like, we can't complain that a white business managed and then invested is talking about his own brand, while African millionaires are not investing in talking our African brand. You understand? You have Africans that have money, but they choose to invest into the white brand because he says, like, I don't want to work too much on this. The brand already exists. It's going to give me a feedback. But there is African brand on medical, as much as in your clothing, in medicine, there is a lot of approach that's have been African projection. For example, when I consider the case of Ebola in DRC, it was sold by medical doctors from the DRC. You are not in the situation, so you can't actually solve the problem because you're not going through the same situation as the locals. So what I'm saying is, we need to pay attention to what our own brothers are doing. We're not talking about it enough. That's the problem. And then I like the point that she brings out about language, and I understand the frustration. I'm from a French-speaking country. French is not my main language. Like, I can't even talk my own mother's tongue because it's very complicated. I have to go to the village and learn it. But I speak French fluently. I'll speak Lingala because I can converse. It's like you are in South Africa, you need to speak Zulu or Sotho, you can converse easily. But it's one of those things when we feel like our own language, we feel like a shame. When you open your mouth and you talk about your own language, you speak your mother tongue, you feel ashamed of it. We shouldn't. And then I think our elders, and I speak to the elders, I don't speak to the government, I speak to our parents. They have not done enough. They actually have made us feel that it was wrong for us to speak our own mother tongue. You need to speak like the whites. You need to speak like the Indian. You can't speak like a black person because when you're having your black accent, it looks like you look completely weird. You're out of place, which is wrong. And then I think those who are on top, you guys need to try to listen to us more often. It looks like you guys you have reached there and you have forgotten us at the bottom. You have forgotten where you were from. You have forgotten that we were all on the grass. And because now you feeling rich, we are no longer there into your thought. And I understand priority have changed. Reality of politics are completely different from what we consider the truth. But it's also the thinkers, who are you leading? And what's that politics doing for us? Because at the end of the day, we're going to have to sit there. If you don't fix the mess now, we're going to find the same mess, and we have to fix it. At the end of the day, there's no progression. We'll talk about African going ahead. We talk about having the same issue being sorted, like we talk about African issues to be sorted the whole year. But at the end of the day, how many times have we been taken serious when we place an African problem on the table? Who respond to us? Who listen when we say, hey, my neighbor took some extra pills because she felt like she was in the school and she was not accepted? How many students are being, I don't know, having health issue, depression, because he feels like my English is not good enough.
Yeah.
How bad it is that I came from a French-speaking country. I came to South Africa. I've learned in English, and my first language, my first learning of English was done here. How many foreigners like me can't speak the language that in South Africa? I'm not really easy going with maybe Zulu and Sotho, but I can be in front of a Sotho person, listen to them and still respond, and still not feel outside the box. But how many times those who are supposed to protect us from the system are doing what they're supposed to do?
Absolutely.
That's the problem.
Thank you very much. Closing remarks, Ms. Luyanda?
My parting point would be that have a curious mind. There's other areas that were brought out. This is now specific to the youth. The other points that were brought up, I'm sure that you found out, about for the first time. But it shouldn't end here, that you have to wait for next year again for this event to happen. You know what? Information is at everybody's disposal. There's a digital space now. Instead of sitting on Facebook and Instagram and all these other platforms, TikTok, stop that. Go and read today about World Heritage Sites. Go and read about how many World Heritage Sites there are in South Africa, how many World Heritage Sites there are in the continent. Be curious. That's how, just try and go and gather information and empower yourself, and that's also how you get to know where the gaps are. What innovative idea can you bring into a space that you didn't know about that you know about today? That's how you are able to put a proposal together of something that you feel, no man, actually, this is something I've been thinking about, but I didn't think that there's an area, there's a forte for it, but today you found out, so let it also not be a case of being dependent on platforms to drive you forward. It's let your mindset change today and broaden up, so you think differently and also be able to speak differently. So that's how actually even any space takes you seriously, the more you have content, which is really freely available on Google. That's the language that the young people talk now. Google and, so use those channels correctly to empower yourself and be better.
Thank you. Parting words, Mr. Nota? In 1 minute, please.
Okay, in 1 minute, you guys are capable of everything that you guys dream of. You guys have got all the resources that you need. You've got the internet, which is your biggest resource, which gives you all the information. I was able to make something of myself by using the internet. No favors, no government, no special things. So this curiosity is something that you can use to capitalize on yourself. So invest in yourself and make sure that you are more valuable than what is beneath the ground.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Give a round of applause to our panelists. Wow, thank you so much, guys. You guys have really given us more insight than we thought, and I think there's a lot that everyone in here is going to take away from today. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, guys, let's get into the festivities now, because this has been a talk show, and I know that I've got one person that is supposed to be talking, so we're going to talk for literally 2 minutes. And I think what we're going to talk about is very, very important, because it's about health and what food we should be eating as South Africans. But because now we don't have time, literally 2 minutes. All right, so we are going to have a fire chat. Literally, it's going to be fire with Kholofelo Mogane, who is a health and lifestyle coach. Can we give her a round of applause?
So, my name is Kholofelo. I like to be called Kholo because Kholofelo, mewaka nampija Kholofelo, fela re ke senje. So I prefer to be called Kholo. And I am a health and lifestyle coach. I embarked on this journey because I had an illness myself, which is high blood pressure, and body clot and all those things, and my life was threatened. But then I felt, they said to me, only food is going to save you. And I realized, no, I still want to see my kids. And if food is what is going to save me, why not? Why can't I just take that path and make sure I eat well? That's when I started with the health and lifestyle journey. But when you do a health and lifestyle thing, every time you go somewhere, you are asking, now I want to eat healthy, but yo, o tlo thoma go ja ulwetse o tsira o gona o afoda ulwetse jo o tlo gona go ja dinatse tse di so this everybody is making this healthy eating even o kare it's unattainable. I understand we can't do it, and now it has taken everything as Africans re nagana gore go ja healthy go nyaka o ye ulwetse go ja healthy you must be rich go ja healthy, and that thing takes away our happiness because re nagana gore we are not there yet. Re ka se kgone go ja healthy hey go bolelwa ka di olive oil. Guys, forget olive oil. Of course those who can afford it, it's okay, mara forget it. I can LV, other people can still afford it. Forget LV. Here is our person. Why understand? So we need to change our mindset and start seeing the real things. Guys, babulela ka di organic, ba re go be healthy, you must eat organic stuff. I get na bona my working accent ka ke Bantu education. I'm very proud about it. Do I understand? I don't need to twang or anything. Of course they twang, they are still young and we love it again because they can compete with others. Mara now, organic, do we all know what it means to eat organic? It is bona if you go to Checkers, if you go to Pick and Pay, you go to Woolworths, they have a space where they say organic. Holy velela price is there. Mara, what does organic mean? Can somebody tell me what does organic mean? Yes, my darling. From the ground. Which ground? From our soil. Which soil? I want us to make sure we get to the point. Which soil? I get it in Woolworths and now it's expensive. Which soil?
The African soil.
Sorry? Your garden soil, my darling. It's in your backyard. All you need to do is tell yourself, because another speaker said here, Remo to ale a farmer or start doing farming, really because they didn't go to school. Mara, that thing was instilled by the colonization. Mara, they are eating from that thing. Spinach, and how many of us go and buy spinach? And spinach right now, many of us had challenges when COVID came. But hey, you need to eat vitamin C. What is vitamin C? Where do you get vitamin C? Did you know spinach is very rich in vitamin C? No, we don't know. We all queued in the barking chemist. Nerinyakana li vitamin C. We all queued mole bona unyakana liduloche wena. You can do it. When we were in COVID, that 21 days, what happened to us? Some of us were crying. Honna mereko honna. Guess what other people, and mostly, I don't want to sound racist, ne? Mara, guess what other white people did? They used that time because Makgotla, gardening is therapeutic. Mara, when you garden, parsley. Guys, you can have parsley in your garden. Thyme. Those things are expensive when you go to the shop. You don't even buy them. You can have them as flowers. That's what they do. And then they say to us, we buy the riringi. Hey, duloche. Hey, rishabudi thyme. Hey, rishabudi fish. Guys, you can go to people who have big houses. They still eat tin fish. Mararena, somebody has told us tin fish low. But it's not true. I don't know if you knew that fruits contains too much sugar. So when you eat fruits, yes, you eat fruits, but how do you eat them? Maybe you can eat 1 or 2. I understand. But we learn and help you. And Amina, I'm about, when I teach you, what do? You go and teach others. Because if you are going to know the knowledge when only one, it'll be matata. Thank you, the 2 minutes is finished.
Very long time ago. But the thing is, what you said was very important, and because this year is the year of nutrition, it was very important that we allow her that time, because we share relating to important, and I'm sure there are many people who can relate, who have taken away, because what's again, bara house of fitla how fitla o te so starta ke le theka ke mangwele ke eng ha o tswa Makgotla o le bohloko. So I know that others are secretly taking notes on it. Can you give her a round of applause? Okay, guys, now the formalities are over. I guess that's what we're here for. Right. So we also have something amazing. We are digital people, ne? We are social media people. We've got the ring, what's this? The selfie box outside. Do you guys know what a selfie box is? You know it? Hey, let's be social media. King selfie box. Not that the right, that one. No. You're going to experience it today. Social media, we have that outside. We have that outside. So, African ambassador, go and take your pictures outside, because those guys are not going to be here the whole day while during the performances, and we're also going to be doing the exhibitions. So let us support our businesses that are here today. I've already supported this. I bought from them. The accessories, I told myself that today I'm not going to wear my own accessories. I'm here to support. So I've already bought the accessories from one of our exhibitors. Can we give that a round of applause? So we're here to support, we're here to empower each other, and it's not just us talking, but it starts with acting. So please, supporting the exhibitors, right? And also call the people that are outside. And also take their contact details and, spread the word about what they are doing, because sometimes it's not that we are not supporting, it's because we don't know where to get them. But like ready-made clothes, but you don't know where to get them, So guys, in the spirit of that, I'm going to now call upon our first act for the entertainment section. The first traditional act is Ritabile Cultural. Guys, can you give them a round of applause?
kade ngasona sokula
uyazazi indaba yemfana ayolala ngesandla ngaso ezokulala
sinyathelwa ngamaphoyisa ebusuku sinyathelwa ngamasosha
emini nje siyathelwa ngamaphoyisa ebusuku nje siyathelwa ngamasosha
emini nje sinyathelwa ngamaphoyisa ebusuku sinyathelwa ngamasosha
emini nje amaphoyisa ebusuku nje siyathelwa ngamasosha emini nje siyathelwa ngamaphoyisa ebusuku nje siyathelwa ngamasosha amaphoyisa ebusuku nje
Thank you so much. What a wonderful performance by cultural dance. Can we give them a round of applause? Away. Tempo yatla, jwale, tempo yatla. So now we have Mr. Mkhize. Are you ready, my guy? Is your music ready?
Sisakula kungekolunda kwanyanzelela ndihambe kaya ngiyosambe yami impilo ukuze ngifezekise amaphupho ungalahli lemini esanakuhlala njalo lemini esanakuwe lemini esanakuwe nakuwe lemini esanakuhlala njalo lemini esanakuwe lemini esanakuwe nakuwe mame kubeka samba ungalahli ithemba naxa kunzima ithuba lakho liyeza noma uhlekwa ngabantu uhlale ethembeni ngoba umtati uyayibona yonke imizamo yakho emini yezanakuwe emini yezanakuwe emini yezanakuwe nakuwe emini
Ladies and gentlemen, how's everybody doing this evening? Are we good this afternoon? Are we all good? So we simply go by the name of the Blue Gum Jazz Band, coming to you live. We're all the way from the East End. Sibuya at Davidton, Eguruleni Springs, that's where we come from. We hope you're gonna enjoy this one. Happy Africa Day, Happy Africa Day. Sebekabele kutapa ayinduko otwane Sebekabele kutapa ayikuko motwane. Sebekabele kutapa ayikuko motwane. Sebekabele kutapa ayikuko sa.
Guys, having a good time. I go by the name of Dave J. And thank you for having me. Let's go. Whoa. I want to take you back with this one. Are you ready? This song goes like this. Here we go. I was inspired by an artist called Baloyi. By his song, this goes. Luyanda rising. Are you ready? Come on, get your hands like this. Let's go. Say. Come on. Come on. Come on, let me see some energy. Let's go.
Thank you to everyone for this amazing event and participation. Thank you to everyone who contributed. It's been an absolutely amazing event as we concluded the Africa Month program. From myself, Vinolia Mabele, we wish you a happy Africa Month. Remember to make every day Africa Day. I'm out.
indawo yami ayikholana buso wami